Okay, we're starting on page 162 now. Session 3.2 is over visual overview selectors and text styles. So you can see, you're adding font family, text indent, font style. Okay, and that's what we're going to learn in this section. So take a look at page 164, Exploring Selector Patterns. Tammy has examined your work on color scheme or styles from the last session and asked that you create another color style for H1 headings. She suggests that you display the text of your H1 headings in white on a sky blue background. Okay, so we're back here to the essay styles sheet, and directly above the style rule for the H2 heading, right here, I'm going to hit enter a couple times, and right there is where I'm going to put my style rule for H1. So H1, and then the left curly bracket, I'll hit enter, space over, and background hyphen color, colon, RGB. Even though they recommended we use the other one, we're going to use RGB here. 125, comma space, 186, comma space, 240, parenthesis, semicolon, enter, and then we'll space over a little bit. And that's given the background color, like the bar, like this color for the H1. And now color, colon, white, semicolon is actually giving the font its color. And then we'll close it with the curly bracket. Go ahead and save it, Control S, and now I'm going to come back here to my home page and refresh. And you can see here, this is an H1 tag, and now we have the background of blue, which is the RGB color we specified, and then the text itself is actually white. Tammy notices that the sky blue background has been added to the welcome text in the H1 heading, but it also has been added the company logo. Did you notice that? A quick investigation of the HTML code reveals the logo itself is also within the H1 heading. Okay, Tammy doesn't want all H1 headings formatted the same way. To specify which H1 headings receive a sky blue background and which ones don't, you have to modify the selector in the style rule you just entered. Okay, so now we're going to talk about contextual selectors. So far, the only selectors you've studied involve either single elements or groups of elements in a comma-separated list. However, this approach doesn't take into account that web pages are structured documents in which elements are nested within other elements, forming a hierarchy of elements. Figure 319 shows an example of such a tree structure for a web page consisting of a few headings, a couple paragraphs, and a few text-level elements, all descending from the body element. To create styles that take advantage of this tree structure, CSS allows you to create contextual selectors whose values represent the locations of elements within the hierarchy. As with the folder structure discussed in tutorial 2, elements in a web page are often referenced using their familial relationships. A parent element is an element that contains one or more other elements, which are child elements of the parent. Two child elements that share the same parent are referred to sibling elements. Each child element may contain children of its own, and so forth down the hierarchy, creating a set of descendant elements that are all descended from a common parent. The ultimate parent element for the HTML file is the HTML element itself, and the parent element for all elements within the page body is the body element. One commonly used selector that takes advantage of these familial relationships has the form parent, descendant, and then styles, where parent is the parent element, descendant is the descendant of the parent, and styles are the style properties applied to the descendant element. For example, to display the text of all H1 headings found within a page header in blue, you could apply the following style rule. Header, which is the parent, H1 is under the header, and we're going to specify it as color blue. In this case, header is the parent element, H1 is the descendant element because it's contained within the header element. Any H1 heading that is not placed within a page header is not affected by this style. Note that the descendant element does not have to be a direct child of the parent. It can appear several levels below the parent in the hierarchy. Okay, so it looks, it could look like that. What's there? It could also be in the H group. Here, the H1 element is a direct child only of the H group element. Because it's still a descendant of the header, it would still appear in blue, okay? Alrighty, so now we're on page 166. Contextual selectors take advantage of several general rule that more specific style is applied in preference to the more general. For instance, the styles section H1 color red, which would mean H1 and the section element would be red, and then just an H1 would be color blue, would result in any H1 heading text nested within a section element appearing in red, even though the last style sets the text color to blue. The more specific style during the contextual selector takes precedence over the general style, which has no context, okay? So once you specify, it will go with what you specify, okay? Okay, take a look at the color rule, the style ruler. Asterisk, color blue, okay, uses the asterisk selector, also known as the wildcard selector, to select all elements in the document. The result is that the text of all elements in the document appears in blue. On the other hand, the rule P greater than EM, color is blue, applies the blue text color only to emphasized text placed as a direct child of a paragraph. Okay, it's sort of confusing, but you can see there on figure 321 they provide additional examples of selectors. I remember that because of style inheritance, any style applied to an element is passed down the document tree. Thus, a style applied to a paragraph element is automatically passed down to elements contained within the paragraph unless that style conflicts with a more specific style. So the more specific you are, the better. And then there's a reference to use to apply a style to all elements in a document. Use an asterisk. To apply a style to a single element, use the E selector, where the E is the name of the element, like P, okay? To apply a selector to a descendant element, F, use the EF selector, where E is the name of the parent and F is the, okay, and then you can see how that works. So now that you've seen how to create contextual selectors, you can fix the style rule you created earlier, okay? So we're back here. We're going to change the selector for the H1 heading rule to section H1. Okay, just like at the top of page 168. So H1 right here, actually right in front of the H1 section, so that all H1 headings in the section element will have the background of blue and the color of the font white. So I'm going to do Control S and come back here and refresh this page, and now that's working. This is our section element right here, and so that works because it's an H1 tag in the section element, and it excludes this up here. Okay.